Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim says urgent changes are coming soon as his unity government faces increasing pressure from within.
The leader urged the PKR to close ranks at its annual Congress held over the weekend and continue to defend a political partnership that has become increasingly difficult to hold together.
Delegates of coalition partner Democratic Action Party overwhelmingly voted to stay in the unity government despite 3 consecutive electoral setbacks.
Attention now on Mr. Anwar's strategy ahead of the tabling of Budget 2027 in October. And it's also when Malacca state polls are expected to be held. While Ira Azari is CEO of the Institute for Democracy and Economic Affairs, she joins us on the show. Good to see you this morning. Let me start by asking you about the DAP voting to stay in the cabinet. But I should say they already ruled out, pulling support before the vote. So I'm wondering if the margin, of the vote tells you anything, and does it actually change anything for Anwar Ibrahim heading into GE16?
Yeah, so the delegates have voted loud and clear to for their cabinet members to remain in Anwar's cabinet in the Madani government. I think this signals that the party grassroots probably do not want to disturb or shake up the status quo this close to a general election. And I'm sure they realize that if they do not have any ministers and deputy minister positions, it will be even harder to push for the reforms that their grassroots want. So this is a good signal, I believe, for Anwar Ibrahim. This does give him a breath of life, I suppose, for the survival of his coalition. But I think the question remains, what reforms would the Secretary General, Anthony Loke, want to push in the remaining time that they have in government, and what leverage do they have now that they are still in government, but at the same time, the subsequent losses of Johor and Negeri Sembilan, I think, has really shown that the Madani coalition is in a fragile position. So it'll be interesting to see what goes, how it goes from here for DAP. But I think the resounding vote to remain is something that Anwar would be very thankful for at the moment, I believe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So, and also looking at another relationship that Mr. Anwar has to manage is BN and PN. They're rivals federally, but they work together at state level in Negeri Sembilan. How far can that cooperation go, do you think?
Yeah, so the BN-PN cooperation or electoral pact, I believe, will truly be tested in states where PN or PAS is very dominant, right? So this hasn't happened yet in both in Negeri Sembilan. There was no single dominant coalition. Well, if you want to say BN was the dominant coalition in Negeri Sembilan. And in Malacca, similarly, it is a BN-led government with an UMNO chief minister. And in the Malay Belt states, in Terengganu, in Kelantan, in Kedah, where PAS holds a substantial number of seats, an overwhelming number of seats, the challenge for them there would be which seats are they willing to concede to UMNO BN for UMNO to contest in. So that, I think, that's where the test will be, because the fact is both BN and PN are appealing to the same audience and are fighting for the same seats. So I think it'll be interesting to see the test of their cooperation there, and also there is an interesting dynamic between Dato Sri Ahmad Samsuri Mohtar, who heads the PN coalition, who's the chairman of the coalition, but you have Dato Sri Hamzah Zainuddin, who is the opposition leader. So many personalities as well, I think, that are trying to get the top spotlight, I suppose, in that cooperation. So the ultimate test, I think, will come in the Malay Belt later during the general election. So it's not. I unfortunately I don't think it will be a smooth sailing ride for BNPN either in the upcoming elections. Yeah.
I want to ask you about party stability. The DAP seem to be united. I'm not sure if the same can be said of the PKR. I mean, Nurul Izzah is going on a study break, and they lost two very prominent leaders as well recently. I mean, do you have a sense of whether or not the party is still united and ready to face the challenges as outlined by the Prime Minister?
Yeah, PKR's status and I think stability and unity remains to be the biggest question in the PH coalition. Firstly, there doesn't seem to be a clear succession plan for Anwar Ibrahim. So the idea, at least I think, was Nurul Izzah by putting her as to contest in the party elections last year. But with her departure or her leave of absence, there remains a big question of who would succeed Anwar as president one day in the party. Datuk Sri Amiruddin Shari is a name that comes up. His tenure as Chief Minister of Selangor, I think, has been fairly well received. But still, he's not the deputy president of the party. He's not a clear kind of second in line. And I think with Bersama, with the departure of Rafizi Ramli and Nik Nazmi to form Bersama, again, in Malaysia's first past the post coalition system, it is difficult for Bersama to win a substantial number of seats. But, the urban seats, probably if Bersama puts candidates, they can stand a chance to maybe split the vote.
Right.
But again, it remains Wong Chen in Subang has 100,000 majority. So if he contested there under Bersama, he might stand a good chance too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, about what Anwar Ibrahim is proposing as well, because of the shifts we have seen in the electorate. I mean, okay, now he's proposing a needs-based approach. He's proposing a 1 million ringgit, allocation to each parliamentary constituency. Do you think this is going to be received, not just by the Malay electorate? You have the Chinese as well, and you have the Indians who are apparently pretty unhappy about how they perceive to have been neglected.
Yeah. So I think the PKR, unfortunately, the numbers have shown from Negeri Sembilan, from Johor, that the Malay vote is not with them. So there's always this big question of how they're going to win over the Malay vote. But I think there is a bigger question right now as well about the reforms that Anwar Ibrahim has promised. So one of them, actually, the abolishment of the University Colleges Act, the UUCA, and also the introduction of an act possibly on state-owned enterprises. These are not easy undertakings. So abolishing the UUCA will also require the tabling of a new act to govern public universities. And an SOE Act has long been promised in the manifesto, but there never really has been any serious attempt to even have a draft of this bill. So these promises will take a long time. The 1 million ringgit promise, I would not be so optimistic until we actually see the money going to the constituencies, because I think this government as well has had quite a negative record of withholding allocations to opposition members. So 1 million ringgit, I think theoretically it sounds good, but we'll have to see which constituencies get them, and if the people are actually feeling this money that's supposed to go to helping them and whatnot. So I feel that there is an air of skepticism to these reforms that have been promised.
Okay, Era, we have about a minute on the clock right now. Just very quickly, so taking all these pressures that we have discussed together, how do you think Mr. Anwar is calculating the timing of GE16?
Yeah, so this is the big question. I think it will, with Malacca looming on the horizon up very soon. I do believe that it really depends on how PH does there. But if you look at the calendar year for Malaysia, it's probably not realistic to hold elections this year as well. So there is speculation that it will be early next year. But I think, again, there's also the tabling of the budget in October that I believe the Prime Minister would want to get that settled and tabled and passed in both the houses before any election is being called. So I think the relationship with BN as well, I think, is now another key factor. Now that DAP is still in government and still supporting Madani and Anwar, I think the next kind of benchmark would probably be the relationship with Barisan Nasional, which will be tested again in the Malacca state election that's coming up very soon. So if BN does really well there, which I think is what we are predicting, it might cause further division between BN and PH, which will probably make the federal government coalition more untenable.
Okay, Ira, appreciate very much the detailed insights that you've provided us this morning. Ira Azari is the CEO of the Institute for Democracy and Economic Affairs.